Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Is That Brandon Sharing Thoughts podcast. So, in today's podcast, I thought I would do a very simple episode, and this is purely just a TV series that I have recently finished. So, it's called Secret Service, and it's a series that's just come out in 2026. I'm not 100% sure who the kind of main cast are. What I'm actually going to do is do a quick Google, just so at least you can get an idea for who some of the main characters are. So just give me 1 second. But basically, what the show was all about was a group of people who, I guess, were trying to stop some sort of war or, create allyships with different countries around the world. It was something along the lines of bringing people together. And they were doing all this sort of secret agent stuff where they were sending in different agents to kind of spy on people and then, find out that eventually it was somebody in the UK team who actually was kind of sharing all of this information, things like that. And as I just had a quick little look online, it basically just said it's a 5-part ITV and ITVX spy thriller Secret Service. It contains stars such as Gemma Arterton, Rafe Spall, Alex Kingston, Mark Stanley, Roger Allam, Khalid Abdullah, Amaka Akafor, Avinash Oifi-Hins, Alexander Terentiev, and Alma Prilek, among many other people in the show as well. What I'm going to do is just quickly give you a little rundown of what it actually is. So, yeah, like I said, I think you've got Gemma Arterton. She's obviously the main character. She plays Kate Henderson, this kind of Secret Service spy. And, yeah, I guess her day-to-day job is quite difficult and is quite dangerous, especially having, her husband in a kind of similar job and her 2 young children as well. So the whole premise of their little situation is that, she's in the Secret Service job, so she can't really give specific details about things that she's getting involved with, but she can kind of give a hint as to, these are the things I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, or I have to quickly go and travel somewhere, or I have to go for a meeting somewhere, or some sort of emergency, because I guess that's what they have to do in the Secret Service. It's not that they can't tell anyone anything. They can tell people that they have to go and visit something or, meet up with somebody for a meeting, and that's kind of it. And then their day-to-day is just not really explained about. And then obviously you've got her husband, who I think he is like the agent or the representative for one of the political parties. So again, I'm not going to really get too much into the political side. It's more just that's just kind of the narrative of the film or the series even. So yeah, he's kind of in charge or helps one of the candidates for one of the political parties. She's obviously Secret Service, trying to either find out information or see what's going on behind the scenes. Are people trying to ruin the elections? Are people trying to, send different messages and create kind of like fake news online to get people taken out of the political event and things like that? So that's kind of her job. And then you've obviously got this team abroad and, all these different countries that are trying to get involved, or their different, political understandings and things like that. Yeah, I mean, towards the beginning of the film, you see that this actress, so Kate, is her character's name, so she goes to meet up with this lady. And I guess this lady is kind of one of their agents. So she's working with Kate and the Secret Service team. And she's basically put into this position where obviously she's a cleaner and she works for some sort of Russian family, and Kate decides it's a good idea to kind of give her a set of like cigarettes and cigars and things like that with a hidden camera or a hidden recorder. And obviously as she goes in and hands the cigars over to one of the people of the family, they screen text it and x-ray it and bleep it and the rest of it, just to make sure that there's nothing dangerous in there or the rest of it. And it obviously passes all those tests because it is just a microphone. Anyway, Kate and her team, remote in a different part of that area or that town, are obviously listening in, and this woman almost basically becomes like bait. So she's there obviously as the cleaner, as part of the family, but she's kind of almost there to, everywhere she goes, she wants to be around people who are talking, giving advice, giving information, so at least then Kate and her team can work out whether that's fake news, whether that's just them talking casually, socially, or whether they're trying to plot or create some sort of plan or, do something torturous with said information, or even with her. So yeah, throughout the film, you know, you don't really know who's involved in what. There's just a lot of different things going on. You've got all these different political wars going on. You've got this woman who's obviously been not set up. She's one of the agents, but she's gone in to kind of get information. And then you've got all these different parties and gatherings and meetings and stuff going on. So I think it's one of those films that you won't really understand if you're not really in the political world. But even if, like myself, you're not and you don't really have an understanding for it, it's just an interesting concept. You know, throughout the episode, you kind of get to know Kate's family a bit better. You know, you work out where they're travelling to, or the fact that she's always busy, she's always going out travelling. The husband kind of, you know, not necessarily a suspicious character. You kind of in your head have doubts because you think, hang on, well, she's not really getting as far as she wants to get with her plan, and information that only she will have told him is seeming to be leaked. So I think even from the beginning, I was a bit not suspicious of the husband or the boyfriend. I was just a bit like, hang on, she's only said that to him, so how else has that information got to somewhere else? Like, it just didn't really make sense. And then, there was all sorts of like blackmail things going on. So one of the candidates supposedly had like a fake AI video of, you know, her in a hotel room with somebody, and that person was covered, so you weren't actually able to see who that was. And then, throughout the film, there's just all different sorts of things that happen. You know, we lose a few agents, we lose a few people, we're skeptical about other people. I think at one point, Kate and the man she was working with both basically got told, you guys have lost your jobs, you guys are not welcome on this project, and, you know, you need to take some time away because you're, you know, getting too involved and researching into things that doesn't really require being looked into, kind of thing. Like, they're not allowed to look into specific like political people's histories and backgrounds and things like that, and she obviously went against that and decided to do it anyway, to obviously see with these candidates who was the better of the 2 or 3 that were running, and also did any of them have any kind of like baggage or anything negative from the past that would inflict the decision of them being able to become the Prime Minister, basically. So she found out a lot of extra information. You know, she was talking to a lot of political people, you know, asking all these probing questions, getting information. Some of the people decided not to help, not to answer. They didn't really understand what was going on. And then we get towards the end of the film, or the end of the series, and basically it was found out that there was someone sharing information. There was someone travelling without the intent of actually keeping things to themselves. They were sharing information from one side to the other, as if like playing for both sides of the teams. Kate decided to confront this person. They said their emotional goodbyes, and that was it. Kate, you know, and the rest of her family were able to, I guess, get through this. And as difficult as her job is, I guess that's one of the reasons she does what she does, to get the people who are working on the inside against the rest of their team out of their jobs, you know. So I'm not going to tell you any spoilers or anything like that that's going to ruin it, but I mean, just the entire series, or the entire show, it was really, really interesting to watch. And if we kind of head away from the political side, I mean, just the action, you know, the thriller. I think one of my favourite scenes was, you know, where this agent that was kind of not set up, but she had to go in and get all this information and stuff. They've all got earpieces, so they can all hear each other, but she's off walking, and, you know, I think Kate noticed that there was somebody following her, and obviously she was able to speak to say, there's someone following me. So she was able to go a different direction, and then somebody else started following her. So it's almost like there's multiple people on this team. Get one over on the Secret Service people. And then it got to a point where Kate was able to intervene. She was able to take somebody out and, you know, get this girl to safety and kind of move on from there. But everything just happened perfectly. You know, the people that were chasing her, that then lost her, came about again, and then Kate took them out, and, you know, all the things like that. And then I guess the other scene was the scene where we lost that same female agent. You know, they were on the boat, they're all ready to go, they're really excited, they managed to get her to safety. And what they didn't realise is, because they're in kind of like an open water, anything can happen and anyone can be there. And I think they trained up a couple of Russian fighters at this point, or people that were trying to look for this girl, or just the team in general. And she basically just put her head up and, you know, was looking around just as if like a meerkat in the woods, and unfortunately there was a female fighter who had a rifle and took that shot to the agent's head, basically taking her out in 1 second. So as much as they thought they were at safety, which they were in a really, really fast, like, kind of cruise ship thing. Just the fact that she wasn't able to keep her head down and just keep herself low, that cost her life, basically. And I think that's the annoying thing with films. Like, you just see so many bad things happen. You go, oh, finally, look, we're going in the right direction. Something good's happening. You know, we're moving forward. The characters are surviving, and, you know, we're moving on to happier days and happier times. But actually, in this case, that was kind of the start of them wanting to shut down this war, basically, and, you know, for the Secret Service team to just win their battle and, you know, become victorious. But in the end, the person who became the political leader was kind of the worst of the two candidates, and the female candidate for her political party who didn't win was obviously then revealed to that those tapes of her in the hotel room with this man was almost just as a cover-up to obviously protect this individual's identity. And when we find out who that real individual was, who was kind of passing all the information and, you know, ruining things and sharing intel which they shouldn't have been sharing, and closing down laptops and causing all sorts of issues. And, you know, there was even the male the male agent that Kate was obviously working with as well very closely. He was taken out in his own house, and we don't know how he ended up back in the house on his own, who took him out, how they took him out, because they kind of were just in, out. He was there on the floor when Kate entered his property, because obviously she had a spare key as well. That was the thing, because they were working closely together. He trusted her, and he obviously knew that she needed a safe space to work, because she wasn't able to do that at home with her kind of partner watching or asking loads of questions, so she felt safe at his place. So when she's gone back in days later or weeks later to find him kind of, you know, on the floor, you kind of want to think, well, hang on, who else knew that she was going there? Because she didn't literally mention that to anybody. So was there people that were working against her but then also pretending to work with her? It's one of those really interesting and really weird situations. But I mean, the actual film series, like I said, as much as I don't understand or don't, you know, have a kind of interest in politics or anything political, I think just the structure of the series was really, really good. Some great characters in there as well. Like I said, you had Kate, you had the man that Kate was working with, you had Kate's husband, you had all the political leaders and the Prime Minister, and you had her boss. So, you know, you had quite a lot of good characters, and then you've got all the, like, the Russian fighters and the spies, the agent that was, you know, unfortunately lost her life, and then you've got the two children as well as the Kate's two children, again very young, but just it's nice that they're able to get a little bit of time in the spotlight. You know, very, like, I guess they're quite good kids as well. You know, they're in acting and probably the start of their career. It might be the only film or the only thing they ever get involved in. It is nice to see, you know, young actors and actresses starting out in their first film or series or show, and then just progressing in the future, being like, look, 15 years ago I was in this, but actually now look at me, I'm an adult. So I think it's the start of brilliant careers there for the two young kids as well. But if you did enjoy my review, if you did enjoy the podcast, then don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. What do you think about the series? Have you watched this series yet? Like I said, it's called Secret Service, came out in 2026, and if it is something that you have watched, let me know what your thoughts are. Favourite character, least favourite character. You know, if there was going to be a season 2, what do you think's likely to happen now that we know what we know at the end of series 1? And that's kind of how I'm going to leave it there, because I'm not going to spoil it, because I'm sure there's still lots of people that haven't watched it. But if you did enjoy, don't forget to do all the supporting stuff. And until my next podcast, thank you for listening, and goodbye.